I call the meeting to order for the Central Unified School Board for August 9th, 2022. Attendance, Mr. Cervantes and Ms. Carrillo are not here yet. They will be here. We'll notify you when they arrive. Adopt the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda? I have a motion by Mr. Paul and a second by Mr. Chan. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nays? The ayes have it. Thank you. I will now open up the agenda to Section D, comments for the public for closed session. Do we have any comments in the auditorium? Ms. Brooks? No? Do we have any calls holding?
We do not have any calls at this moment. Would you like me to set 30 seconds on the clock?
Yes, sir, please. Please let the record indicate Ms. Carrillo has joined us at 6:03.
"30 seconds have passed, and we have no comments by phone at this time."
Thank you, sir. With that, I'll go ahead and go into closed session. Thank you very much. at 7:01. Ms. Davis, would you like to report out?
Yes, on item E2, motion made by trustee Carrillo, second by trustee Cervantes, vote 7-0. And then on E3, motion by trustee Paul, second by trustee Brooks, vote 7-0. And that's it.
Thank you. Moving on to item G, the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Chan? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. H1, student recognition.
Yes, thank you, President Solis. Please welcome to the podium this evening Mr. Ray Hightower, the Athletic Director for Central East High School, to share about the outstanding accomplishments of our East Campus swim and dive student athletes and coaches. Thank you.
Can I have the athletes go ahead and make their way up here, please? Today I have three athletes from our swim and dive program. They had a huge accomplishment last season. We have athlete Matthew Leeworthy, who was a CIF Division II 100-meter breast section champion. Bella Harper was the Division II dive section champion, and Andrew Ishheim was the Division II, and he placed second place in the 200-meter. Huge accomplishment for our swim and dive program. And they are led by head coaches Matt Bogart and Gabby Curdell. And just want to also mention that Andrew also placed in the 500-meter freestyle. So congratulations, athletes.
Thank you again, President Solis. At this time, I'd like to formally congratulate and introduce our new principals here for Central Unified. As I call your name, please make your way up to the stage to be recognized. Todd Bennett, Principal, Harvest Elementary School. Aaron English, Principal, Madison Elementary School. Esther Karcher, Principal, Steinbeck Elementary School. Harmon Dillon, Principal, Justin Garza High School. Paul Marashian, Principal, Hernan Barstow Elementary School. Again, congratulations, and we wish you a wonderful start to the school year. Thank you.
Moving on to item H3, Employee Association highlights. Ms. Martinez?
Can never tell. Yeah, this is on. Good evening, Board Trustees, President Solis, Superintendents. Welcome back. If you weren't at the kickoff on Monday, you missed a great one. Those of you that were there, I think most of us here in this room were, saw that. It was wonderful. It was exciting. It was positive. It was uplifting. And it was exactly what our employees needed, what our staff needed. So with that said, we are looking forward to a great school year and the exciting things to come. We would like to welcome all of our new educators that were hired, our speech therapists, our academic and intervention counselors, psychologists, and of course, all of our new administrators and our classified staff. I hope you all feel as welcome and appreciated as I have over the years. And Kudo looks forward to working with each and every one of them. Thank you, and we look forward for all of the work that you're going to be putting forth because it's going to be an exciting new year. Thank you.
All right, moving on to G4, department presentations. Item A, child nutrition.
Yeah, I'd like to welcome our director, Alyssa Engel, up to the podium and is going to give the board a presentation by the board's request on the child nutrition program. So give me just a second. I'll load up the slides.
This is on, right? Okay. All right, first of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to come here to speak about the Child Nutrition Department here at Central Unified. Before I start in on what we're going to be doing this school year, I'd like to share some numbers with you. So next slide. What we do on a daily basis, and these numbers come from last school year. So on average, we serve over 3,400 breakfasts a day, over 9,100 lunches per day. We have 18 sites that actually participate in the snack program, so we average over 900 snacks a day, and 7 sites that participate in supper, which we do over 260 per day. So what's going on in our department this year? Well, a few meetings ago, we asked for an emergency resolution for a new combo walk-in box at Teague Elementary, and that is underway. We are purchasing that with kitchen infrastructure and training funds, which the district received over $470,000. And of the $470,000, 86 of that will be used for training our staff. The combo box for Teague right now, it will be completed, hopefully, fingers crossed, the week of Thanksgiving, because everything's kind of backlogged, and so we have a temporary box there right now for the kids. With those funds, we'll also be replacing a dish machine at Madison Elementary. Any equipment, miscellaneous equipment that we need at the 24 school sites, whether it be ovens, steamers, warmers, dish machines, garbage disposals, we'll be utilizing that money. The part of the money for the training, we're going to be, with our staff, we're going to be doing culinary skills and what we call speed scratch, because we're going to be kind of going backwards and more scratch cooking within the district and trying to do, so it's not going to be full. What speed scratch is that you do like the majority of it at one site and then you send it to the feeder sites to be finished off. So let's say we're doing chicken fajitas, we'd cook the chicken at the one location, we'd send out the cooked chicken to the sites, and then they would finish up the item at that school site. So it's a lot fresher than what we're doing right now. So we will get training, we will utilize that training money to get the skills that they need in order to do that. We also received a grant from No Kid Hungry for $22,500, a double stack oven at Teague Elementary as well. And we did write a grant through the California Department Food and Ag School Incubator Grant to, and it's for Houghton Kearney, and it's to purchase 2 flex farms. And in those flex farms, we can grow different lettuce and herbs. And we also wrote in the grant to rejuvenate the garden they have out there. So we'll be growing fruits and vegetables, and anything that we do there, we will be harvesting into our kitchens, into our schools. And obviously, we would advertise that where it was grown, who grew it, and because they will be very proud of that. And we will find out next month in September if we get that grant. At the end of last year, we did a student survey. We sent it to all secondary leadership classes. Obviously, top lunches were pizza, chicken, Oriental bowls, chicken, teriyaki, cheeseburgers, and chicken tenders, the obvious things that teenagers like. Top breakfasts were pancakes, waffles, yogurt parfaits, which we do make those, cinnamon rolls, bacon and eggs, and things they would like to see more of are ethnic foods, freshly prepared foods, more gluten-free and vegetarian items, and open the snack bar. We'll get to the snack bar in a little bit because that's staffing. So what we're going to do, the next slide. With the information, we're going to create new ethnic entrees. With this information, we will work with the students. We did actually, in the process of getting some of this information, we tried a tiki masala chicken over rice, which was very well taken by the leadership at Garza. So we are going to be implementing that into our menus this year. We'll continue to purchase local produce. Our produce company is locally here in Fresno. They purchase local produce, and that's who we purchase from. We'll work with Central Ag Department. I actually have a Zoom meeting with them tomorrow afternoon to speak with Chris Williams and Yesenia about purchasing items that our school grows and implementing those into our kitchens and cafeterias for the kids. I need just, the logistics of what they're growing, when it's going to be harvested, so we can plan our menu accordingly. I'll reach out to small farms to see in the area to see if anybody's interested in doing some business with the schools. We'll utilize all of our equipment. One of the things when I was talking about speed scratch cooking is that Garza, when it was built, was blessed with a blast chiller, which means that when you cook your meat up to temp, you can cool it down to the proper temperature within 30 minutes, so it makes it a lot safer when you're cooking and bringing it down and reheating. We'll purchase any equipment that's needed. We're going to be doing taste testing with the kids, staff training like I talked about, possible food fair. I'm not sure if I can get that done this year, but that is one thing that I would like to bring to the district, to do a food fair, taste testing with the students, and staff can come and join as well. Things that we're facing, like everybody else, is supply chain. If you go to the grocery store and you see empty shelves, well, we experienced the same thing, and we all saw that last year when we had to change our menu, I think, every single day. Hopefully this year it's better. I don't anticipate it to be that much better, if I'm being quite honest. I put our orders in for August and half of September and June, and I'm already getting items that are not coming in. So we do what we always do. We adjust. We feed the kids every single day. I just wanted to put that out there because the supply chain based off of COVID is not going to go away this year, and probably not next year either. We're also seeing food costs increase just like the rest of us are at the grocery store. So what we do is we look for like products that are cheaper, but we will not compromise what we buy and serve to our students. And we're always hiring awesome people because we need that in child nutrition. Right now, we're pretty blessed. We hired some new people, so I think I only have 2 openings, 2 vacancies right now. I do have a short sub list, but we're always growing that as well. And so, last but not least, I would like to invite you all to schedule a visit and come have lunch at a school site or breakfast, whichever you prefer. If you would like to schedule that, then I can give you a tour of the kitchen, answer any questions, so we don't disrupt the service of lunch or breakfast. And with that, do you guys have any questions for me?
Thank you. Questions or statement by the board? Ms. Creel?
Thank you for a great presentation. I do have some questions, and it's just more to better understand. I know I've heard some complaints from parents that we don't serve the best food, especially when we're hosting meetings or a session and we're outsourcing elsewhere. So can you talk to us a little bit more about this, the cooking, the speed scratch cooking, which it sounds like we're already doing some of, and or are we not? Did I misunderstand that?
No, we're not doing it yet. We
Okay.
are going to do the training because when right now, basically our items come in, pizza, tenders, they're all cooked. We heat and serve. The things that we do put together are, we make our own salads, we make our own wraps, we make our own sandwiches, minus the Uncrustables that the kids love. But in order, I want to make sure that we're very safe with handling raw product, like raw chicken, raw beef. And so we're going to do extensive training with the employees that will be doing that. And so that part needs to be completed before we can implement the speed scratch.
Got it. Okay. So when we're preparing food and reheating, is that happening at each of the school sites, or is that at a central location and then being transported elsewhere?
We cook at every single site.
Okay. Thank you. The other question that I'm just curious about, I'm excited to hear about the results of the grant for the farm. But if we're not given the grant, have we had any discussions with our superintendents as far as our ability to potentially allocate funds and be able to still have that project? I love hearing that we're going to be working with Central Ag, and that's fantastic. But I'm wondering whether we can still support these types of projects if we're not granted the grant.
We can certainly look at it. We're eager. There's quite a few granting coming through, and this is typically successful. I hope I didn't just jinx it by saying it into the atmosphere, but we obviously want to try to secure the funds such as that first. So if it's the wishes of the board that if we don't get it, which we can come back and let you know, that we need to divert some funds to work on that, we certainly can have that discussion.
Thank you. Yeah, if there's consensus when we hear back, I'd love to hear the item and see what it would look like for us to invest or even further expand Central Ag, whatever that would look like. Because I think it's a great opportunity, and it also, I think, addresses some of the issues with the concerns of the appearance or even potentially our food chain. If we're growing our own products, we're going to be at a better position. So,
I just want to clarify on that grant. The flex farms are actually soilless growers. They're walls, and then they have their light, and so we'll be growing the lettuce and herbs without soil.
okay.
And so they're two different, in the grant, we wrote for 2 grow boards in addition to reviving the garden.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
little different than just a regular garden.
And those are all my questions. I just want to thank you
Okay.
and your staff
You're welcome.
for really making it work. And I just remind our community to be patient when we're having to adjust the menus in response to any of the chain issues that we're having. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Ms. Davis, do you have comments?
I just also wanted to add, thank you so much, because I think you've been really responsive to helping our West Ag group, and what's been coming up is more creative ways to do things, that you're taking care of it. And I guess in one of the comments, Trustee Correa, you said you're getting some feedback on when we're holding meetings, maybe we're using different food product than our cafeterias. And I do need to tell you, they're our first ask whenever we're hosting meetings, that we get food from them, but we also respect the fact that if it happens to be the one week they actually take off, or it's at the same time that they're having issue with food, we're the last priority. So our outsourcing to other food isn't intended to have value on the quality of food, but just making sure that our first priority is feeding students, and the adults can be fed different ways if necessary. So, and if you do want to go on a tour or a visit, I know we can coordinate, so let me know.
For sure. All right, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Mr. Cervantes?
Question, comment? Well, thank you again. There's a lot of great work, and I love to see that grant money, because I love to see my tax dollars getting utilized for good things. And I also want to say thank you again to your staff, because you went from feeding schools during that COVID time to feeding communities, and they showed up every day, they got sick, and they did it. And we're very grateful for that as a community. That's the good side. The downside is having children or kids that went to school in the district. Accessibility to the cafeteria. So we have about 15,600 students approximately, and we're feeding 9,000, let's say 9,200 kids for lunch. There's a ton of kids not eating lunch. And I wonder, I don't know that all of them are brown bagging it, right? That's almost 6,000 kids. The ability to be able to streamline the meals, so all kids can have accessibility, because I know I've been told by my own children, if you're anywhere near the back of that line, everybody crowds, you never get, they don't even try. So I got a feeling there might be 6,000 kids, or at least close to, not eating lunch, which is something that's concerning to me. Is that something that we've taken a look at? Can we get the meals out faster? Can we open another window? Are we looking at that at this point in time?
We're always looking at that. I did notice at elementary, since our kids have returned this last year full-time, there's a lot more lunches being brought home, or brought from home at elementary level. Secondary, a lot of it is they don't want to wait in the lines, but if you come visit, I guarantee you can tag the last kid in line and they'll be through within 12 minutes. The lines are very deceiving, so when we do get phone calls from parents, we ask if they just have their student at least try it, because they do go quick. We have multiple points of sale at all secondary sites. Let's see, at Garza, we have the big walkthrough that they go through. We're gonna be opening snack bars for meals as well. We, at East, we do meals out of the snack bar, and inside, and at West, same. But this past year, because we were so short-staffed, the only snack bar that stayed open all year was East. Because when we need staff, we kind of pull from the bigger sites, and as long as we can, but we're always looking for something faster. And faster at high school is multiple sites. And when we're fully staffed, we do that.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions or statements? Hearing none, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Moving on to item I, superintendent/board comments. Ms. Davis.
Thank you. Before I dig in, I did hear that Principal Bennett from Harvest did make it. Is that true? If you want to stand up and just wave. Poor guy got the instructions to a different parking lot, so we're glad you're here. Thank you. So welcome to the 22-23 school year. Yesterday's all-staff welcome back was important for us to set expectations. We've been talking a lot about the fun of it, which was also really important for us as a group, I believe. And you may hear us talking quite a bit that we are working towards Central being next level. We are ready for it. We have the right people for it. We know that we have the students to do it, and we really need to work together to make sure the expectations are high and that excellence matters for everyone. It just happens that following that was JJ Fad, so I think that got more attention, but I had a lot of conversations recently, I did, just teasing aside, from folks that really were thinking about that information and talking about the value in our organization. It does take everybody in the group to do what we are talking about and what you have expressed over time in terms of the expectations and your belief in students and what they can accomplish. And making sure that everybody understands that's all of our responsibility. I hope that the trustees that were able to attend enjoyed the event. We have received a lot of positive feedback. Thank you for those earlier. I also want to report that we had a productive first meeting with our area leaders, and I know that's been a conversation we've had about making sure Central is out and connected to our local city and county officials. And so last week, we met with Councilmember Carbasi, Supervisor Pacheco's Chief of Staff, the Director of County Planning, and talked about a few of our intersections, a few of our developments, kind of what progress was, and some fires that needed to be lit that we all agreed to very quickly, one specifically being Herndon Barstow's crosswalk improvements that has been a conversation for some time. I hope you've driven by. I would not recommend, as Principal Marashian would say, driving by tomorrow between 7:30 and 8, but the crosswalk improvements, they responded so quickly. Both city and county own different, or responsibility for different sides of the street, and then PG&E had a responsibility for the corner and the pole. And if you've driven by over the last 3 days or 4 days since our conversation, every single day there's been different groups out. Steve just sent me a picture. They even put up a boundary or divider that had been knocked over, cleaned up debris, repainted the crosswalk. And so there's some long-range goals as well with that we talked through. You may have driven down Teague and seen, I know there was, Councilmember Soria had come out a while ago for the light and the expansion at Teague, right in front of their campus. They don't have the sidewalks yet, but they're going to have a sidewalk all the way through for kids to safely get to campus. And so please know that my opinion in those meetings was they definitely are interested in the needs of Central, definitely interested. We already have a follow-up conversation planned with, or in discussion, not the date yet, but the plan for the Director of County Planning to go through all of the areas of our community and make sure we're up to date and current, and have an opportunity to express our needs. So not done, but definitely progress. So I'm really thankful for that. Talking about back to school tomorrow, we will welcome back to close to 16,000 students. We are the first school district in our area to start back. And so we're really hopeful that all of them know that they need to come back tomorrow and not wait for neighbors and other school districts to start. We do encourage everyone, all of us included, to be really careful on the road. And be patient, because we do have different roads closed and folks rerouted. Great conversation today, and learned our local CHP had an old connection to Central, and a good conversation with them, but we have asked that they be out in full force and gave them some specific times around our schools, because we do know with Veterans Boulevard and the high-speed rail, there's a lot of dirt moving around, and there's a lot of trucks and folks moving on some of the same streets, and we want our students to be safe. So we ask you all to travel carefully. I don't want anybody to get a ticket, and I'm really excited if CHP and local law can be out there to make sure that happens. And our principals are all here, and having been a former principal, I guess the other ask is the parking lot duty is always amongst us, and it's kind of fun. You get to say hi to everybody, and a lot of people don't want to say hi to you because you're making them move through traffic, and so we ask that people understand we're having people move along just to keep our students safe. So counting on a good start of the school year, and tomorrow before the sun comes up, I think we'll be out at Central High School with Dave Holterman to show off some animals that wake up usually earlier than we do. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Communication from the board? Mr. Cervantes.
Well, I think everybody knows I'm one of those guys that'd rather beg for forgiveness than ask for permission, so I don't know if this is the right time or the most appropriate time to bring up, and you can stop me at any point in time. But I had been hearing about Merced, Atwater, and now Dinuba establishing a fast-track program called the MAP program for guaranteed entry to UC Merced. And so I made an appointment with the chancellor, Dr. Sanchez Munoz, and he was gracious enough to meet with me. And I asked him if I could obtain more information about this particular program, or if they had more slots. And the answer was yes, they have more slots, and yes, they're very interested and excited about the fact that being able to establish a potential relationship to have that ability for our students in our district to get on that program. They don't lower the standards, but it's just a fast-track program, and they get a guaranteed entry. I'm a little bit familiar with the campus because my daughter went there, and I would have to say it's probably everybody knows about it, but don't a lot of people use it. With that being said, it is probably the gem of the San Joaquin Valley. It is a beautiful, state-of-the-art campus. You get a world-class education, almost in a private school setting because it's relatively small. They've expanded their campus from like 7,300 students, I think, up to 10,500 students, and they have many slots. So what he said, I asked was, what do we do to move forward? He said, well, get your superintendent and your cabinet on board, and your head of the career college director, or at least interact with their admissions officer that runs this program is Dr. Justin Noji, and let's start the process to pursue the possibility to establish this fast-track program with Central Unified. Exciting, they're excited, and then I was at liberty to say that the chancellor invited an open invitation to go and tour. Anybody, board members, cabinet, superintendent, counselors, with 2 to 3 weeks' notice. They would love to host a tour for us. So I'm not sure how to move forward, and you can slap my hand later, or you can do it now. But does it have to be on the agenda? Do we have to get consensus from the board? Is this something the superintendent moves because it's a good thing? I mean, what's the next steps for us?
We move on good things. So in this case, we have the information, and thank you for making contact. Both Dr. Boatwright and I will follow up and get more information. We'll bring it back to you.
Outstanding. I'll forward everything I got to you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, moving the agenda. Item J, comments from the public. Ms. Brooks, do we have anybody waiting in the audience? No. Do we have any calls holding online?
We have no comments by phone at this time. Would you like me to set 30 seconds?
Yes, sir.
Thirty seconds have passed, and we have no comments by phone at this time.
Thank you, sir. Closing comments from the public. Moving on to item K, consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Creel. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Chan. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nays? The ayes have it. Ms. Lopez, can you call the next item?
Next item on the agenda is our action items. First item is L1, accept gifts to district. Mr. McLean.
Thank you. So tonight we're recognizing several donations that took place last week or two for our district annual administrative institute. We received $100 from Advantech benefit administrators, $240 from DLR Insurance Solutions, and $210 from SciTech Solutions for that event. And we also received Panera gift cards from McGraw-Hill Publishing in the amount of $700 for the new teacher luncheon. We want to thank our donors, and we're recommending that the board accept these gifts to the district.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments from the board? Turn your mic on.
A gracious thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cervantes. All those in, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll move to accept the gifts.
We have a motion by Ms. Carrillo. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Brooks. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nays? The ayes have it. Ms. Lopez, can you call the next item?
Next item on the agenda is L2, approve architectural services by TAM Architects for the Central High School new Ag Lab classroom building. Mr. McLean.
Thank you. So at the last meeting, we brought information regarding the new Ag Lab classroom building out at Central High School, And we had Mr. Jared Ramirez, the partner and architect with TAM with us last time. I've asked him to come again tonight, so if he could come up to the front to answer any questions. We had a good, healthy discussion at the last meeting about some of the design features, and so I wanted to talk about this again. We did talk with staff at the school since the last meeting and have had several conversations with Mr. Ramirez. And so with that, the recommendation tonight is to approve the architectural services contract with TAM, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, and Mr. Ramirez is here to answer questions as well.
Thank you. Sir, do you have a report you'd like to give first?
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. Yeah, we heard your comments last board meeting about the aesthetics of the building and how it addresses the main street, and we've started to look at that and take those considerations into thought. And like we were saying, we spoke with the site staff again and are working through some of that process.
Thank you for addressing our concerns. Any questions or statements by the board? Mr. Paul.
Yes, thank you. Has there been any movement on that? I mean, I know you're talking to him. I think the two things that came up were the roll-up location and then I guess the aesthetics of the street-facing view.
I can comment, and if you want to add as well, but yeah, what we were getting feedback on was just, yeah, the desire everyone has for aesthetics to make it an attractive view from the outside of the school. Also, just taking into consideration the practical level in terms of getting deliveries on into the building as needed. So again, we're working through those with them, but I think we'll have some really good drawings, and we can bring information back to the board after we have a little bit more discussion with them. But yeah, there's definitely some interest in meeting both of those expectations.
Thank you. I looked again at the drawing where the roll-up door is, and I know that they wanted it, staff wanted it on that side, but if you look at it, I think are bollards in front of it. Maybe it seems like there's only about 8 feet in between the bollards and the roll-up door, and I'm just not sure of the functionality of that. Also, the parking lot, there's a parking lot that fronts that, which separates it from the street, which I think allays safety issues probably. But it seems a bit problematic to me that you're going to have parking areas and then a delivery area in the same spot. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I just wanted to reassert that is, yeah, I just don't understand why we would do that.
And I could speak to that a little bit. The drawing, so the roll-up door that they've requested there, there's an additional covered work area for them to do outdoor teaching.
Uh-huh.
And that area is about 20 feet deep.
Mm-hmm.
So there are rolling gates, like a security ornamental gate that kind of protect and secure any materials in that covered area. So the roll-up door in the elevation, it's really like 20 feet back.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or statements? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve. I have a motion to approve by Mr. Cervantes. A second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mailing. Calling the item. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, sir. Ms. Lopez, can you call the next item?
Next item on the agenda is L3, approve nominations for the Fresno Committee on School District Organization, Superintendent Davis.
Thank you. This item returns to solicit nominations for the Fresno Committee on School District Organization. There are 2 vacancies in District 1. We currently do not have representation on this committee, and tonight is an opportunity, should you choose to nominate yourself or others. Ready to take any nominations?
Thank you.
Or a pass?
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Discussion on the item. Do we have any volunteers? All right. Would you like to do it, sir? Ms. Davis, how much time are we talking about?
That was actually my first question too on it. So let's see, the term of office is 4 years. The amount of time they meet is a couple of times a year, it appears, unless there is, they have quarterly meetings set, but when I looked back over the few years, there were a couple of special meetings as well that occurred, and we were going through redistricting with the new census data at the time, and that is one of the functions of it, so I can't say that that's typical that they had 5 meetings a year, but I would say 4 meetings a year. 4 is the magic number, and it says the term of office is for 4 years.
Well, I can't guarantee the 4 years, but I can do 2 for sure. And my mindset on this, if we don't have any representation, we're not at the table, we don't eat. I think it's critical that somebody from this board is on that board. And again, it's not easy always to accept additional responsibility, but 4 times a year is not a backbreaker.
With that, is there consensus that we nominate Mr. Cervantes?
I'll move to nominate Trustee Cervantes.
I'll second that.
I'll third it.
Do we need to take a vote on it?
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor of Mr. Cervantes, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nays. Mr. Cervantes, congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Cervantes.
Thank you. Anita has the paperwork to help you with that. It is due on the 15th, so we'll work with you on that part. Thank you.
Ms. Lopez, can you call the next item?
Next item on the agenda is L4, hold public hearing and approve Williams Uniform Complaint Procedure. Mr. Horstman.
Good evening, President Solis, Trustees, Superintendent Davis. Tonight we will hold a public hearing to approve the Williams complaint procedure. Principals and departments have compiled this info for the quarterly report. Fortunately, no complaints were filed with any school in our district during this quarter. The administration is recommending the board hold a public hearing at this time and approve the Williams uniform complaint procedure.
Thank you, sir. I'll now call a public hearing for the Williams uniform complaint process open. Ms. Brooks, do we have any speakers? No? Do we have anyone wanting to speak online?
We have no comments by phone at this time. I will set 30 seconds on the clock.
Yes, please.
Thirty seconds have passed, and we have no comments by phone at this time.
Thank you, sir. I'll now be closing the public section part of this item.
Thank you.
Moving on to. That's 5, isn't it? Item 5?
No, so 4 is once you open it, now ask for a motion to approve it.
Okay. With the public hearing closed, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Creo, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Brooks. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Ms. Lopez, can you call the next item?
Next item on the agenda is L5, hold public hearing and adopt resolution 22/23-07 to dedicate easement to the city of Fresno. Mr. McLean.
Thank you. So at the last board meeting, the board took action to adopt a resolution indicating its intent to dedicate an easement to the city of Fresno. And this was for the traffic signal that's going to go in on Grantland Avenue, just outside of the parking lot to the stadium. And so that'll be a great safety feature. And if you were exiting the parking lot yesterday morning, you will welcome a traffic light at that intersection. So at this time, the board would need to hold a public hearing on this question of conveying this property easement so that the traffic signal can be installed. And we can do that at this time.
Thank you, sir. Opening up a public hearing on adopting the resolution. Ms. Brooks, do we have any speakers holding in the auditorium? None. Do we have any speakers holding on the phone?
We have no comments by phone at this time. Would you like me to set 30 seconds on the clock?
Yes, sir.
Thirty seconds have passed, and we have no comments by phone at this time.
Thank you, sir. Closing the public section portion of this item, I'll entertain a motion to approve. I have a motion by Mr. Cervantes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Paul. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays for anyone opposing? The ayes have it. Ms. Lopez, can you call the next item?
Moving on to information items. First item is M1, receive information regarding school opening for 2022-23 school year. Dr. Boatwright, Mr. Collegian, and Mr. McLean.
Good evening. I'm happy to point out a few updates regarding new bell schedules and a minimum day change at the high schools. Do you want to go ahead? There we go. So elementary sites, except for Madison and Soroyan, which are our overflow sites, will start at 7:50 a.m. this year, and Madison and Soroyan will start school at 8:05 a.m. Our middle schools will start at 8:20, and our high school will start at 8:30. Instead of having minimum day on Wednesdays at the high schools, they will have a late start at 9:00 a.m. So what this means is that their professional development will occur in the morning instead of in the afternoon. And then office hours at all elementary sites will be from 7 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and then office hours at all secondary sites will be from 7:30 to 4:30. So these are COVID guidelines to start the school year. You may have seen this already since it was shared last week with the community. So students that have a positive COVID test should stay home until they are symptom-free and without a fever for 24 hours. If they are symptom-free, they may test on day 6. They will need a medically verified negative COVID test to return to school prior to day 11. Timelines for when to test and return to school will be provided to students as needed. Hand sanitizer, mask, and washing stations will be available at all school sites. Face masks are strongly recommended but not required. The Central Unified Testing Center will remain open until Labor Day. Students and staff can make appointments to be tested here. As Labor Day approaches, the need will be evaluated as to whether or not the testing center should remain open or how we should modify our testing plan. And now Mr. Collegian will...
Yes, thank you. On the employee side, in terms of COVID-19 and our response, not much has changed since last spring. I do want to share again with the school board and the community that we are continuing to implement a daily health screener for all of our staff, and visitors who work and both attend our school sites. Staff and visitors are required to self-certify at the beginning of their workday, and they do that via email. Our tech department has a self screener that goes out to everybody's email prior to 7 a.m. every morning. Also, the health order is still in place for all employees for vaccination purposes. Those who are not vaccinated will continue to test on a weekly basis through our testing program managed by our human resources staff. I also want to share with school board and community that we are continuing our relationship with with FCSS and United Health Centers in scheduling vaccination clinics. Our next one will take place tomorrow at the Teague Resource Center from 1 to 4 p.m. And we have another one thanks to United Health Center. The location here is the Herndon and Milburn location, which will take place on Saturday from 9 to 11 p.m. No cost to staff or students who attend either of the clinics. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or statements from the board?
That's 9 to 11 a.m., right, for the clinic? Oh, okay.
Apologies, the Resource Center will not be open late in the evenings. Apologies. Thank you, Ms. Davis.
Questions, statements? Oh.
I'll just add some things on the operational side. So we're making sure that we have sufficient supply of COVID test kits to be available for staff and students as needed, PPE, masks, age-appropriate N95 masks, hand sanitizers at schools, hand washing in sinks and bathrooms, and deep cleaning where needed, and getting ready for school. We're also continuing to work on securing our campuses with updated security systems. We'll talk about that a little bit later tonight. And our fencing and gates and our controlled entry into our schools. So we're tightening those areas as needed.
If you can go to the next slide as well. In the spring, you may recall, we had given you updates about receiving Narcan at our campuses. Just as a reminder, the Narcan nasal spray is an FDA-approved drug that we can have on campuses. Training is very simple in use, and should it be used when it really wasn't needed for an individual who may appear to have had an opiate overdose, there aren't complications to it. So health officials say it's a really good idea to have. When we had the discussion, you asked that we bring back an update to that. So we scooted it into this because we wanted to make sure you are aware that it is available in all health offices. We have extras as well with our lead nurse. We have some at the district office. Staff has been trained. First response, obviously, in part of that training is you still call 911 first, but we did want to have that available and have also added to our health services website on the district both the information about it, the access to the links and trainings, because families could choose to also go out and secure some for their own home. So we wanted to make sure that that pass-through of information was available. So thank you for your support in that. We completed all the paperwork and do have it available, and wanted to make sure you knew that. Lastly, and Steve just alluded to this as well, we ended the school year talking a lot about safety and inclusion of all in our schools, and we want to make sure everyone is aware as we're talking about starting the school that we are absolutely committed to safe and inclusive schools, and are doing a handful of things to that you have supported in decisions being made, including the addition of staff. We also are looking with psychologists and counselors and evaluating that. We know some schools who did not have counseling now have half of a week. They're sharing one. And as new money came out of the state budget, we're definitely looking at that to see can we even ramp that up. And so you'll hear from us on that real soon. It's kind of a teaser to that, I guess. The safety and security, we've had many discussions both on staffing and supports. in terms of intervention specialists and really making sure our campuses have the resources they need to get kids to school safely. And Steve just mentioned some of the building improvements. Over the summer, Jesse, I see him in the audience, Jesse and his team went around to campuses, have been talking to principals about entrance, what do we need to make sure on campuses for entry to doors as they come on campus, movement around the campus, what are the things we can do. And we had a campus that needs a long-term fencing plan in one area, and also a temporary fence that's going in right now to make sure, and that's at El Capitan, where the office is actually located in the center of the campus, to make sure that that has the same type of a pattern or flow. The other thing we noticed in the spring, and there's been a lot of attention to, was the controlled entrance at gates. When we have activities around campus, we had a lot of discussion about what can we do. So our community who may be listening, or when they receive this, we want to give forewarning that when you're coming to events on campus after school, or in that overlap of time when school is happening, that the intention is that we have a controlled entrance where they're entering and they're not just wandering through the campus while activities are still going on. Those are preventative measures. I'm also really excited, and you'll get a chance to hear from our Director of Special Education and Support Services, Julie Schaefer. She and CWA's lead, Maisie Young, got their teams together. I asked the question about an anti-bullying strong approach, and boy, did they understand what that meant. They've done a lot of work, and there are plans to make sure staff have the right lessons. Everyone is doing some of the same lessons over the course of this coming month and a half, leading up to a national anti-bullying event in October, and woven within it, character development, that we really start the year strong and working on that. And so they've got some great plans for that in place. We had conversations with what Nora Ceballos, who I also see here, has in store for our parents in terms of parent trainings to get them well equipped. And then stay tuned. There's some work underway. It's just not done yet, but an anonymous tip line with Crime Stoppers to help make the work that the individuals out here do when investigating something a lot faster, so that they can get focused back on the work of students, and hopefully the tip line can be one step towards that. So we'll get this out to the community. We wanted to share it with you first because there's been a lot of work done over the summer to get this year started right. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, I'll move the agenda. Ms. Lopez, can you call the next item?
Next item on the agenda is M2, receive information regarding state-adopted 2022-23 budget. Mr. McLean.
Thank you. So I do have a brief budget update on the state budget. If you recall, back in June, the district, as it normally does, adopted its annual budget, and just a few days later, at the end of the month, June 30th, the state followed with the adoption of the state budget that was still pending at the time that we adopted our budget. And some years, there are small changes between what's proposed in the state budget in early June and what we hear at the end of June when the budget is passed. And in this instance, there were some new programs that came through at the end, and so we wanted to update the board on that. So some of the changes that were coming through at the end of June with the state budget was additional LCFF, that's local control funding formula dollars, base grant funding increase of 6.28%. And then transportation funding, which has been kind of locked in at the 2012-13, I believe, rates, has not been updated for all that period of time. They finally reached an agreement to add on additional transportation funding, which helps our general fund, because in the past, our transportation programs, like most districts, are not fully funded by the state. So that gets us higher than we were, gets us to 60% of costs. Right now we're under 50% of costs, so this is helpful. And then lastly, there was a agreement reached to increase LCFF funding for transitional kindergarten students with an additional funding amount per student of $2,813. So with these changes, and we'll be continuing to talk about the budget as we normally do throughout the year, but we are taking a look at our existing budgets. We're looking at our per pupil site allocations. We want to make sure that we're supporting our schools. We're looking at our program budgets because we know that, as Alyssa mentioned a minute ago, that we have inflationary increased costs on a lot of our supplies that we are purchasing and different services. And so as a result, budgets need to grow along with those cost increases. As Ms. Davis mentioned a minute ago, we are continuing to look at the safety and security aspects of our schools and investing in those items, as well as some of our deferred maintenance projects, being able to, again, help our schools to be at the next level. And so we are going to be developing our plans for that here during this next few months. On the new funding, I wanted to mention a few of the items that came through. Significant dollars in what's called now the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant, which for our district, the estimated amount at this time, we don't have final numbers yet, but around $9 million, just over that. And it is available through us to spend through June 30th of 2028. So we have some time to plan for that and to use that over the next several years. This will increase opportunities as identified in our local control accountability plan for academics, for student engagement, and for wellness. In addition, the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program that began funding last year is seeing an increase in funding of an additional $6 million. And that will enable us to continue with our after-school programs at all of our schools and be able to increase intercession opportunities. And then a new block grant known as the Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Block Grant, estimated at $23.7 million, which again lasts for several years. This one expires in June of 26. And so this increases funding for a variety of opportunities for art, for music, for library materials. It also encompasses operational costs as well, which would include the STIRS and PERS cost increases that we're seeing, as well as COVID supplies and services. So just looking forward in the year, our next report to the board on finances will be at the September 13th board meeting, and that's when we close out our year and look back at last year for 2021-22 and see how we ended up. And then the December meeting will be the time for the board to review the first interim report for the 22-23 year. And then going beyond into 2023 on January 10th is when the governor's January proposal for the following year's budget for 23-24 will be revealed to us. And with that, I will pause and see if there's any questions.
Thank you, sir. Questions or statements by the board? Ms. Creel.
I read and saw again on the presentation, but I want to make sure, if I remember correctly, there were at least 3 of our school sites that we were funding. The board made a decision to fund the after-school program correctly. I want to say it was Garza, Liddell, and maybe a third, or maybe I'm remembering the names incorrectly.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
It was Justin Garza High School, River Bluff Elementary, and Liddell Elementary. Okay. Yes.
So with the expansion of this additional fund of the $6 million and the continuing funding, is that now going to also provide funding for these 3 school sites, or are there still specific criteria that must be met before the school is eligible?
No, this will fund those 3 programs. That was the contracts that were approved at the last board meeting.
Right.
This money is additional, though, to what we thought we would receive, and so we're looking into this now, and then we'll make determination on what to do next as far as meeting the needs of our students.
Okay, and then remind me, when we're looking, like in this instance, we have additional funds for these specific programs. Do we look at that specific site and see what their after-school needs are? So are we contacting our principal and making sure that whatever specific needs are needed at that site, that's what we're doing rather than just doing the same thing for all of our.
No, we
school
are
sites.
looking at individual needs at the sites. Our programs are all ready to go to start tomorrow, and then we'll be evaluating as we go to increase opportunities for our students.
Fantastic, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and close this item. Ms. Lopez, can you call the next item?
Next item on the agenda is M3, receive information regarding approval of 2022-2023 school plans for student achievement, SPSA. Mr. Garrett, Mrs. Bergman, and Mrs. Pennington.
Good evening, President Solis, members of the board, and Superintendent Davis. I'm bringing this item to you tonight as an information item on behalf of all three area administrators and our school sites. Each year, our school plans for student achievement go through a collaborative process of reflection and planning based on current school year's data. The following year's categorical allocations the site will receive to best support the academic and social-emotional needs of their students and actively engage and support their families in their students' learning. The documents are quite lengthy, as they are very comprehensive and include a variety of required components. The sections that outline the site goals are an excellent starting point when reviewing the plans. The plans, which are aligned to our district LCAP goals, have gone through that process and have been approved by each site school site council. School plans for student achievement have been attached, and we thank our site leadership who are in attendance this evening for all of their hard work in preparing these plans. Administration is recommending that this item be placed on the August 23rd agenda for action, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Questions or statements from the board? Ms. Creel.
I just have a comment. I know these plans are always lengthy, but I know it's one of my favorite items because we get to evaluate and see all the great work that's happening and that's going to happen, but also we get to see all of our principals. So thank you for being here tonight. I know it's the day before school, but we really appreciate you and being able to see your faces, and we're wishing you a great next year. I'm wishing you a great academic year, and again, thank you for all your hard work on these plans.
Thank you.
Any other statements or questions from the board? Hearing none, if I don't hear an objection, I'll go ahead and place this on consent. It is on consent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Ms. Lopez, can you call the next item?
Next item on the agenda is M4, receive information on California Teaching Fellows Foundation contracts. Dr. Boatwright.
Teaching fellows are students that are enrolled in local colleges and are employed in classrooms and after-school programs throughout the Valley. We've utilized teaching fellows for several years in classrooms to provide increased opportunities for differentiated, individualized, and small group instruction for our students. Teaching fellows do receive 40 hours of professional development to prepare them to work with our students. They also work closely with teachers to address specific student needs in literacy and mathematics. 10 school sites are requesting teaching fellows contracts for this school year. Administration is recommending this item be placed on the August 23rd board meeting agenda for action, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions or statements from the board? Mr. Cervantes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just curious, I know we've worked with this agency for quite a while. Are we tracking the outcomes in terms of the intervention that are being provided to these students that are in need?
Right.
Do we know if this is working? And if we do, where's the data to say otherwise?
So we do certainly see our student assessment information. When we look at our student progress, we can see school sites that have provided opportunities for increased small group instruction, differentiated instruction. We do see outcomes. We recognize that growth is needed in all areas, but this does provide that extra level of support for our students during the school day.
Do we have any data or white paper that substantiate those outcomes and the improvements?
I can certainly bring that back.
Thank you. I'm just curious.
Yes.
Any other questions, Ms. Creel?
Thank you, Trustee Cervantes. I had similar questions, if not the exact same ones. If I understand this correctly, the school site makes the decision as to whether there's a need, and I'm assuming they're evaluating somehow, right? Okay.
Yes.
I think it would be helpful just as a refresher for us, or just to have an understanding of how those decisions are being made. For me, it's more of making sure that we're taking whatever action necessary to continue to support them and funding these types of programs and contracts. So thank you.
Any other questions or statements? What's the pleasure of the board? Consent? All right, I'll place it on consent. Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Lopez, can you call the next item?
Next item on the agenda is M5, receive information on the 2022-2023 contracts to support academic achievement. Dr. Boatwright.
The attached contracts are being submitted for annual renewal tonight. Cognitively Guided Instruction, or CGI Math, provides professional development that enhances teachers' ability to teach math with a focus on building students' mathematical thinking in grades TK through third grade. Developing Mathematical Thinking Institute, or DMTI for short, provides professional development for teachers that enhances their ability to teach in a way that encourages problem solving and ensures students are able to model and communicate about mathematics. This training is directed towards intermediate grades. In addition, we also have our English Learner Group contract tonight, which addresses our commitment to increasing English language proficiency and build academic achievement in ELA and math. Site administrators and teachers will be attending this training, or all three of these trainings. Administration is recommending this item be placed on the August 23rd board agenda for action, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions or statements by the board? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and place this on consent.
Thank you.
Ms. Lopez, can you call the next item?
Next item on the agenda is M6, receive information regarding student wellness contracts. Mrs. Schaefer.
As she's coming up to the microphone, I don't know that we've had a chance to introduce you. You've probably seen her for a long period of time as the Harvest Principal, but we are very thankful to have Julie Schaefer now leading the Special Education and Support Services Department. So thank you, Julie. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. Well, good evening, President Solis, members of the board, and Superintendent Davis. Tonight, I'm bringing information on Care Solis. Care Solis will assist our families in enrolling in outside mental health services, and will provide access to our students who have private insurance, and will eliminate delay in services for our students. They're currently in 430 school districts, including Fresno Unified. They also offer over 200 languages to support our families in their primary language, and they are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days. And so we have the documentation attached, and administration is recommending the item be placed on the August 23rd agenda for action. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, ma'am. Questions or statements from the board? Ms. Creel.
This is a new contract for our district, correct?
Yes, it is.
Are we currently contracting with any other agency to provide similar services?
Not for privately insured students, we are not.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or statements?
Thank you for the work.
Thank you.
With that, I'll go ahead and place this item on consent. Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Lopez, can you call the next item?
Next item on the agenda is M7, receive information regarding security camera upgrades. Mr. McLean.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Mr. Bath, our Director of MOT, to come up to the podium as well for any questions on this item. But as we talked earlier in the evening, we are continuing to look at the safety environment of our staff, students, and community. And so we're looking at our camera systems throughout the district. And we recently had proposals received from Magnetar, which is a vendor who has done some work for us in the past, is very familiar with our schools. So we're looking at upgrading, at this time, proposals for camera systems at El Capitan and Rio Vista Middle Schools using a piggyback contract. And so we have this item on the agenda for information tonight and for action on August 23rd. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to approve.
It's information.
Oh, sorry. I'll go ahead and put it on consent.
We're just so excited to get that project done.
Thank you. Ms. Lopez, can you call the next item?
Yes, next item on the agenda is M8, receive information regarding purchase of technology devices to support student learning. Mr. Martinez.
All right, good evening, Board President Solis, board members, and Superintendent Davis. The district is requesting to purchase additional Chromebooks for the 3rd through 12 classrooms for the 2022-23 school year to help supply and maintain the remainder of the year. The purchase will be made through the vendor Bloom with using the contract, board-approved contract NCPA, using one-time federal COVID funding. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Creel.
You might have said this, and I apologize, because I don't think I got this from the item. Are we replacing, or these are the items that we need that we don't have enough of in the classroom?
We currently have enough for the classroom, but we do need to replace and also stock our regular replacement cycle Chromebooks as well. So we're trying to maintain the remainder of the school year.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure. I was wondering when I read this item if we had enough devices at the start of the school.
Yeah, we'll have enough devices for the start of the school year.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and place this on consent.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Lopez, can you call the next item?
Next item on the agenda is M9, receive information regarding field trips. Mrs. Pennington.
Sorry. Good evening, once again, Board President Solis, Superintendent Davis, and members of the board. Requests for overnight field trips, day trips over 150 miles require board approval. Tonight there are 16 requests for field trips, including Justin Garza High School, Central East High School, and Rio Vista Middle School for your approval. Documentation is attached. Administration is recommending approval and that these items be placed on the August 23rd agenda for action. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions or statements by the board? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and place this on consent. Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Lopez, can you call the next item?
Next item on the agenda is M10, receive information regarding CalPERS audit findings. Mr. Collegian.
Thank you, President Solis, Board of Trustees. Central Unified, along with many California school districts, were selected to be audited by the Office of Auditing Services by the California Public Employee Retirement System, also referred to as CalPERS. Based on their review, they found that some of our pay schedules dating back to 2016 were not in compliance with Government Code Section 20636.1 and the Title II of the California Code of Regulations, Section 570.5. Specifically, two items were identified in the audit. One, that the classified management pay rates should be based on 261 work days, and I'll comment on that in one short minute. And also that the chief business officer salary schedule must also be listed on the classified management salary schedule. I think it's important to note that our reporting of a salary were and continue to be done correctly, although the salary schedule itself dating back to 2016 and to 2020, because we did make the adjustment post-2020, essentially to add a column that identifies that the work year for the MSC management classified employee is in fact 261 days. That essentially what was missing on the salary schedule. So if you look at the attachments, we attached one, the audit findings, of course, but we also attached to this item the original salary schedules dating back to 16 to 2020, and the ones that are updated. And the difference between the ones from 2016 and the updated ones essentially is a column that says that the work year is in fact 261 days. The reporting was all done correctly. I think that's important to know. But essentially, what CalPERS said that that dating back, that it's important that we add that column in there. So in the event that it does have an effect on any retirement monies, and it does not, that there's evidence in our school district that the workday is in fact based 12 months, 261 days. So essentially, in order to clear the audit findings, administration is recommending that we place this on the next board agenda for action. And once that's done, essentially share the board minutes with CalPERS, stating to them that we did make the adjustments to the salary schedules. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Questions or statements by the board? Ms. Creel.
You said this, but I just want to make sure it's clear. The only need at this point, based on the audit, is to correct the schedules, which you attached as the updated and labeled them updated.
That's correct. And also making sure that the CBO's salary schedule is also included on the MSC one, which is presently already on the website.
Okay,
That's
thank
right.
you.
Those are the two things that the audit found, and updates have been made. Once we clear the findings, we'll be good.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and place this on consent. You want it on action? All right. Change that. Action. Ms. Lopez, can you call the next item?
The last item under information is M11, receive information on the 2022-2023 consolidated application for categorical funding. Mrs. Grigsby.
Good evening, President Solis, board members, and Superintendent Davis. The consolidated application, or CONAP as we call it, is used by the Department of Education to distribute categorical funds to school districts in the state of California. Annually, and typically it's from mid-May to June, they call it the spring release. But for the last 2 years with COVID, it's actually been the summer release. It's been in August, so here we are. Each district uses the consolidated application and reporting system, which is a web-based application system, also known as CARS. We like our abbreviations, to submit the spring release, or in this case, the summer release of the CONAP. The CONAP documents participation in all the federal funds that we receive funding from, and provides assurances that we'll comply with the legal requirements of each of those programs. Application details are noted in the agenda comments, and we've attached samples of the CARS homepage, the assurances, and the application itself as it will look once I submit it online. Administration is recommending that this item be added to the August 23rd board agenda for action after answering any questions you might have.
Thank you, ma'am. Questions or statements from the board? Hearing none, what's the board's pleasure? Consent or action?
Action.
Action.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Davis, do you have anything for advanced planning?
Just a quick note, I think a question had come up. If you're following the advanced planning, you'll notice we moved a few items up from August 23rd so that we can meet submission deadlines. And on occasion, you will see that we have board policies listed for information and action. If we don't have any to bring to you to revise that are urgent, we just try to balance the meeting agenda. So we'll make sure this is up to date for the next meeting, but we're glad we got a few things taken care of tonight, so thank you. The other note, I think, as well, just so you know, moving into the next meeting, you'll see August 23rd is listed for the academic performance report. That information is not yet all available. That will be September 13th.
Thank you. Moving on to item O. Ms. Davis, do you have any additional information?
I feel like I'm talking too much, but I just want to acknowledge everyone that's in the audience right now, or our principals of our schools, who this is the most exhausting week, I think, as a principal. It is to prepare, to get everybody else's needs met so that the classrooms are ready to go, and then to be here this evening. I do really, really appreciate it, and I wish you a fantastic first day and first week of the school year. I'm sure there'll be a few things that you planned for that didn't work perfectly well. Figure out what it is, you fix it, and you keep going, but I can't think of a better group to start this school year with and be ready to welcome the students. So thank you. I hope you get some sleep tonight.
Thank you, ma'am. Any closing comments from the board? Ms. Creel?
I just want to wish everyone a great start of the academic year tomorrow. I know, and I echo the sentiment, I know that there's a lot of work that goes into preparing for tomorrow, and many of you are probably still preparing as you sit here tonight. So thank you very much for being here, and have a great week.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'll close by saying, I know I feel the excitement. We're ready to get back to school. All righty. The next meeting will be August 23rd. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. I have a motion by Ms. Creel. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Chan. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nays? The ayes have it. We're adjourned.